Welcome back to High Tech Heroes. Maggie Bollock is here, and she's been telling us about her artwork, and she's going to explain how an animation that she helped make at Sun Microsystems was made. And so what do you want to explain to us first, Maggie?
Well, just briefly, what we ran up against when we started doing this was a lot of undeveloped kinds of areas. For one thing, we weren't traditional animators. We didn't have a light table. We didn't have cells. We had to figure out how we could do animation on the computer, because we did a lot of the animation by just hand painting the cells directly onto the computer. And then on top of that, we actually composited some 3D rendered objects.
Now, I don't even know what that means. You hand-painted cells onto the computer.
Yeah, we used the MediaLogic Paint program, and I had 3 or 4 different artists.
So you had a paint program and a mouse or some, some light pens and stuff?
That's right. Okay. That's exactly right. And we'll see the animation in just a minute, and you'll get a better idea of what that's like. What we actually did is we sat there in front of the computer, and the artist would work, you know, and we'd come up against problems, and we'd go and we talked to, say, Rich Berlin, and, you know, one of the artists decided that she wanted to do some programming with Thea Grossberger, and so Rich did the programming for her, and she designed the programs. You'll see the sparkles in the program, and she did that, and then another artist did all the clouds, so a woman named Janet Kramer, and she hand-painted every single cloud that you see, every frame. There's something like 4 gigabytes of hand-painted frames, and every cell that you see has something like 7 different layers of composited stuff.
Wow.
So what I have here is just a kind of a little brief introduction to some of the problems we ran up against when we started animate. Most people who deal with animation realize that creating movement in a non-linear fashion or an interpolated fashion is very difficult. And when you're actually doing traditional animation, you have a light table and you can draw step by step, but in our case we couldn't. We actually had to draw things on the computer, and we came up with this particular method. You'll see in the animation itself we have a cactus. This looks a little primitive, but it'll do.
Sort of like a cactus. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of close. And you'll see there's a red dot there. And what we did is, one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to rotate the cactus arm so that the cactus would like open. Okay, so what we started was with, you know, just a bare minimum opening of the arms, and we'd like actually take this as an object and we'd rotate that around, and then as it came out farther we'd move these dots up, and we'd use the dots as the points of rotation, and we'd just keep doing that so we could actually get some very reasonable kinds of movement.
Now the dots were attached to a cactus that you...
The dots were just put on with a dab of the artisan paint.
On what? On the computer?
On the computer, on the actual piece that we were painting on that was on the computer itself, and we were painting with a mouse. And we'd come and we'd click on that spot and we'd get a red dot, and then we'd trace around this area and we'd copy that area and we'd rotate it, and we'd use this as the point of rotation so that the movement itself would be smooth.
Okay.
Okay?
So
and
this
then,
is not a case like, sometimes they put dots on humans or other concrete figures, and then as you digitize them, you follow the dots and use that to interpolate. These are actually put on in your really two-dimensional space.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we ended up doing is we ended up using things like lines. Whenever we had a movement that we wanted to make with the actual objects, for example, with the cactus, we'd actually put the line down there, and then as we would take the cactus and copy it, all we have to do is just line
so
each
you
one
copy
up.
it over and over again down the line, and that would translate the cactus.
That's right.
Okay.
And maybe we could show.
And then you take the line out, I guess.
Oh yeah. What I did after we got done with all of the cactuses, we ran them through a bandpass program that actually did some image processing on every frame and basically created an alpha channel all around the cactus so that the cactus gets composited on separately, each cactus. And then we have something like a total of about 40 frames, and they are like scripted, so you may see 3, 2, 1, 3.
Do you have a video with you that demonstrates this now?
Yeah.
So could we see that?
Sure.
Okay.
That's great.
So let's, this is going to demonstrate how you use the dots to do motion.
This
and
particular
as reference
one
points for motion.
is exactly that. We're actually taking the cactus, and you'll see up on the left the initial cactus, and you'll see down in the bottom where we're actually building the object, and then we go up and we copy the object, and now we're pasting the object, and now we're moving the object down, and then we're going to rotate that object, and you'll see the final form of the cactus versus the initial form. Okay, it's moved down considerably, and the arms are open. So that's an example of how we did that whole process.
Okay. Okay, that's a lot of trouble just to move this a little bit.
It actually became really an art, and we got pretty fast at it.
And so it's not like Walt Disney, though?
No, not like Walt Disney at all. Okay. Walt would be proud of us, though, I'm sure. So
now what's the tool that you used for this, primarily, the hardware?
Well, we worked on different Sun workstations. When we use the Media Logic program, it basically works on any of the workstations that we have all through the line. And then, as you'll see in a minute, I have an animation of how we did the actual 3D part of the animation. I have a plane that we actually created with a modeler, and then we used a 3D scripter. This is all in-house software that's not released or anything. And we scripted the plane, and then after we scripted that, we sent that to a renderer, and we rendered it. And in the final animation, you can see the whole piece together, where you actually see the 2D animation, then you see the plane flying through the scene that we created in 2D. And it'd probably be a good idea to show that.
Right. Now, this is all done on Sun equipment.
Right. And again, the 3D renderer is actually developed on a board that we have that's called a TAAC board, and that's basically...
And TAAC, that stands for, is that an acronym?
TAAC, T-A-A-C, and that's for Transcept Application Accelerator Cardset. And it was developed in North Carolina by a company called Transcept, and then Sun bought the company, and now the technology belongs to us.
Oh, I see. So Transcept doesn't mean anything so much as it was a company name.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Well, let's see this animation, this example, and this is an example of the TAAC. Well, I don't know. You're going to tell us, I guess, what the...
Yeah, we're using the tool, and it's on the TAAC. The TAAC is a board that has a lot of video RAM, and it allows you to do very high-level graphics very quickly.
Okay.
Okay, and here it is. You'll see the initial plane flying through, doing a loop and flying out, and then you'll notice on the right there's a scheduler. And what it's doing is it's going back through each event. Prev event is what it's doing. And that's the previous event. And now it's going up to the bars up above, and it's actually changing the shape and the size and the position of that plane.
Okay, so those are histograms of each one of those.
That's right. And then now it's going through again, and you might be able to tell just a little bit that the actual script has been changed. That particular script has something like, maybe 200 events in it. It's not interpolated. So we had to calculate every single one of those. I had a man named Katine, who's a physicist, work on that part of the animation for me. And he had a really great time trying to figure out the curves.
I see. Just to do the interpolation, it's nonlinear interpolation. Then
That's right, and the tool itself doesn't do that, so we had to do that. He had to do that by hand.
And all this was calculated then on 68 thousandths, I guess, really.
This particular part of the animation was calculated and rendered on the TAAC board itself.
Okay. And the TAAC board, you say, has a lot of memory in it.
Yeah.
What does it keep in the memory? Does it keep frames, or does it keep...
Well, it's like a three-dimensional array, okay, and it's video RAM.
So it keeps objects in there.
Right, and so you read in your object, and it has a lot of processors on the board.
And what can it do then with the object? Rotate it?
Oh, you can do everything with the TAAC. What I did on the TAAC is a very small subset of what the TAAC actually does. It goes, they have a number of different tools on it that do image processing, medical imaging, Landsat processing, and just a great number of kinds of things.
Okay, so you can rotate, translate, warp.
Everything, everything.